This lesson discusses returning values. Topics include: do you have to return a value from a function? What is the advantage of returning a value? How do you return a value from a function? How many values can be returned? And what if I want to return more than one value? Looking over to the first code example, you can see 3 examples of functions. In the first example, on lines 4 through 7, you can see that this particular function returns no values whatsoever. It simply echoes a string. On line 9, we invoke the function by name. The result will be returns no value. On lines 12 through 15, we have another function, returns string value. You'll notice that this returns a fixed string as a value. On lines 19 through 23, we have a function that returns the value of a variable. On line 21, a value is assigned to $value. On line 22, that value is then returned. On line 25, we echo the return value of the variable that's been defined. Moving now to the browser, let's have a look at the result. So we see here the first function, although it returns no value, it does echo something. So we see on the screen returns no value. The second one returns a fixed string. The third one returns the value of a variable. So accordingly, if we change the variable to something else, so for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, save it, go back to the browser, refresh, we can see that the return value for the third example is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Moving over to the second code example, the question then arises, what if you need to return more than one value? The answer is you would return some compound data type, for example, an array or an object. On lines 5 through 9, we have a function called month names. It returns an array with the names of the months. On lines 12 through 21, we have another function called drop-down months that returns the HTML needed to produce a drop-down list with the names of the months. You'll notice that on line 15, the drop-down months function calls the other function month names. This is permitted in PHP. On line 16 through 18, we have a for each loop where we go through the names of the month and we put them into option fields within a select HTML input field. On line 23, we then echo the return value from drop-down months, which is effectively an HTML drop-down list with the names of the months. Moving over to the browser, let's look at the result of the second example. So as you can see, we have an HTML drop-down list with the names of the months. In review, do you have to return a value from a function? The answer is no. However, the majority of functions do return a value. What is the advantage of returning a value? Returning a value allows you to use the function to produce output, which is useful. How do you return a value from a function? You'd use the return command. Following the return command, you would have either a fixed string, a fixed value, or a variable. How many values can be returned? Only one. What if you want to return more than one value? You would return a compound data type such as an object or an array. There is another alternative which is discussed in another lesson, and that is using references. This concludes our discussion of returning values.